What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. Coming up on today's show, could the Vikings be signing Saquon Barkley? Finally getting that true RB1 here in Minnesota during free agency. And then also a pretty famous and popular NFL YouTuber suggested Baker Mayfield could be the next quarterback one in Minnesota. That's what's coming up here in just a second. But guys, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with the real ones here on Vikings Now. I was looking at the analytics on the channel over the past 28 days, and 68.4% of you guys are not subscribed. I want you guys to change that on today's show. Offseason is here. Free agency just around the corner. Draft will be here before you know it. So if you guys aren't subscribed, hit that sub button. Free and easy way. And let's change that number. Maybe get that at 35% after today's video. All right, let's do it, guys. A fun show coming up for you guys. My name is Patrick Siepman, but Saquon Barkley. I think there's been a lot of talk on the Twitter streets that the Vikings could possibly be signing a running back, and there's probably no bigger name out there than Saquon heading into free agency, and also Baker Mayfield. And I said we just kick it right off to Brett Kollmann, and he had the kind of, report and thought about Baker heading to Minnesota. He was actually quote tweeting a tweet responding to somebody that said Baker could be an option for the Minnesota Vikings, and he kind of said, how did I never think of Baker to Minnesota before? And he kind of made the point where it's like the Vikings have good weapons, and Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, they got two good tackles and an offensive head coach, and he thinks Baker would thrive there in Minnesota. And Baker this past season, man, he was good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously getting that big-time playoff win, beating the Philadelphia Eagles at home, but his stats were pretty solid throughout the year, man. I mean, listen, Baker was the number one overall pick for a reason. He's got the arm talent. He's got kind of that moxie that I like at that quarterback position, but throwing for over 28 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions this year, over 4,000 yards, and a pretty solid completion percentage as well. And obviously, he did come into U.S. Bank Stadium and beat the Vikings in Week 1. But according to Spotrac, Baker Mayfield is set to make $27.1 million in free agency. That is a haul for a man who, I like Baker Mayfield. Do I like him enough to pay him $27 million per year? Probably not. And now if you compare this to Kirk Cousins, what he is supposed to be projected to make according to Spotrac, which is $39.4 million. And I will say I really disagree with this number that Spotrac's throwing out there. I get it. Kirk Cousins, he's top 10 quarterback in the league, and that's probably what a top 10 quarterback is supposed to make during free agency. But he is coming off a torn Achilles, and I do believe this. If Kirk Cousins would take a discount I believe Kirk Cousins, would take a discount to remain the quarterback in Minnesota. You think about this. His family's here. He's talked about wanting to be the quarterback of the future for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's just comfortable in this offense. And we've heard the shtick around Kirk throughout his NFL career. He's had a different offensive coordinator in most of his seasons, and now he finally will be able to go, entering year 3 with Kevin O'Connell. I just think that whole comfortability factor, plus with the family aspect, I could see Kirk signing a deal where it's 2 years, $50 million fully guaranteed, and he's playing for $25 million a year. I really do believe Kirk would consider that. But let's just say you don't want to bring back Kirk and you don't want to, obviously bring in a guy like Baker Mayfield. Let's look at the draft real quick. And this is my quarterback rankings as they stand right now. I do think Caleb Williams, Drake May, I think those are undisputed 1 and 2. I've heard talks about Jaden Daniels possibly being the second quarterback in this year's class. I really just don't find that too likely. I think it's going to be Drake May at number 2 to the Commanders. But, Jaden Daniels, I think he would be a great prospect. I think he's a real definition of a boom or bust guy. He's way better in the pocket than I thought he was from just me watching his tape. And I think the Vikings, like I've been saying, whatever rookie quarterback ends up in Minnesota, they're going to have one of the best support systems in the league. And with a boom or bust guy like Jaden Daniels, if you would keep him, obviously in that purple and gold, and then to have him, be the quarterback of the future with Jefferson and kind of build that connection, I'd be all in. I got J.J. McCarthy at 4, though. I think J.J. McCarthy would be one of those picks. If the Vikings took him at 11th overall, you will go to the Instagram comments, you go to the Twitter replies, and people would be bashing that draft pick. Kind of makes me like that draft pick a whole lot more. But J.J. McCarthy, I think he's a good option. And then I got Michael Penix at 5 for me right now. The medical history and just overall age, I think concerns me a little bit for Penix. But if you could somehow get him maybe early of the second round at that 42nd overall spot, I'd be all in on a guy like Penix. He's got a big-time arm, and he had one of the best games I've seen out of a college quarterback when he did go up against Texas in that college football semifinal. But that's my top 5 as it stands right now. But if you guys want a sleeper option for the Vikings in the 3rd or 4th round, remember this guy right here, Spencer Rattler. And I know he's got a terrible reputation right now. There's character concerns around him. He obviously got benched when he was at Oklahoma. But who did he get benched for? It was a freshman year, Caleb Williams. And I think, when you talk about Rattler, he's got the big time arm. Little bit of a douchebag we've heard off the field, but I think Rattler would be a great option in the third or fourth round. Have him sit behind whoever it would be, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, whoever it is starting at QB next year for the Vikings. So keep your eyes out on this guy. I like him a lot. But in terms of Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, what quarterback would you pick? If you just had to pick one, would you choose Baker at that $27 million per year, or would you take Kirk Cousins at damn near that $40 per year? Type 8 for Kirk or type 6 for Baker Mayfield. Coming up next year on the show, should the Vikings sign Saquon Barkley? Obviously a need to have a true running back one with this group. We'll dive into that here in a second. But guys, I got to tell you guys about this great deal we have going on right now. Hoodies are up to 50% off at chatsports.com/Vikings. Hoodie, all the hoodies they have there, I absolutely love it, and there's a sweet deal going on right now. So I'll make sure to put that link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's show. You guys click on it, see what they have. They got a ton of great options, up to 50% off as well. Hey, listen, February is going to be cold in Minnesota, I promise you that. And if you guys want to support the purple and gold, make sure you guys do check it out. Chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie. Hoodies are up to 50% off. Check it out. Now let's talk about it. Should the Vikings sign this man right here, Saquon Barkley? One of my favorite non-Vikings in the league. I will say he's actually helped me win some fantasy football championships in the past, so also shout out to Saquon for that. But should the Vikings sign Saquon? Let's talk about it. Let's take a look at the Vikings RB room as it stands right now. Obviously, Cam Akers, you guys see him in the top right of your screen. He did tear his Achilles, so we don't know if he's going to be ready to go next season, but, he's an option. But you also do have Ty Chandler and Alexander Mattison. Are any of these guys, truly workhorse options? Probably not. Kene Wangu is that gadget guy, that kick return specialist. But the Vikings do have a need for a true running back one. And you could make the argument, when was the last time a true running back one has made a run to the Super Bowl? Like, I get that. If you look at, the top rushers in the past, I think it was 15 Super Bowls, there's really not any notable names besides a Marshawn Lynch type of player. But I think Saquon Barkley would be a huge addition to this offense. And could you imagine if you're an opposing defense and you got a scout for Saquon, Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, you got the two tackles, the Vikings would really have a dynamic offense. But the question is Saquon worth, signing him to maybe a $10+ million per year deal? I don't know. And that's the thing. Listen, Saquon, the numbers on screen right now would be saying, no way I'm giving a guy like this over $11 million per year. But I will say, this past year with the Giants, the offensive line was absolutely terrible. They gave up the most sacks in NFL history. Their run game was not too good. And, Saquon Barkley was still able to make some magic happen. Obviously, 3.9 yards per carry is, nothing to write home about. But anytime I turned on the Giants this season, he still had that burst. He still kind of had that elusive nature that he had, coming out of college. But, the thing is with Saquon is, how many more years does he have left? He's 27 years old right now, has had injury history in the past. If you would be signing Saquon, you almost got to project his production a little bit. He's on the downhill right now. I mean, what would he look like next year and the year after that? I think there's a big question. And this is my guy right here. You guys know this. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, I'm a big Ty Chandler fan. Listen, Ty Chandler, obviously this past season with, the shakiness, I think, around the Vikings offense as a whole with Kirk Cousins being out, I felt like we never really got to get a full observation and a full kind of view of how special Ty Chandler could be. But I swear, every time this guy touches the ball, I feel like it could be a house call. And I think he's the best where the Vikings running backs are right now. He is the most complete running back. He's got the breakaway speed. He can run over a member of the defensive secondary. And he can also make a man miss in the hole. I like Ty Chandler. But is he a true RB1 of the future? I think the jury's still out on that. There's one guy that should never run the ball for the Vikings, I honestly think, ever again, and that's Alexander Mattison. I like Mattison. He's great in the locker room. He's great in the city of Minneapolis. He's an overall really good dude. But, I mean, this past season, he was bad, man. He had fumbling issues, didn't find the end zone once. He was terrible in the red zone this past season. I mean, the amount of runs where I would go on Twitter and check my phone, it would be literally fans taking snapshots of a hole that Alexander Mattison missed this past season. Felt like it happened almost every single game. So, listen, I would be all in on the Vikings going and getting another running back. Saquon Barkley, though, I'm probably saying pass on bringing in Saquon, but I don't know, guys. I don't know. I mean, it would definitely be an interesting decision because you think about it like, face value of having an offense of Saquon, Jefferson, Hockenson. Like, it sounds pretty cool. But, again, we're not playing fantasy football here. I would rather maybe go in the draft, get another guy. Like, maybe you take Blake Corum or, a guy like Ray Davis out of Kentucky, who I do like a lot. He's got that burner speed. But you guys know where I'm at. Let's have Ty Chandler cook his RB1 next season, and I would enjoy that. But would you sign Saquon Barkley? S for sign, P for pass. And, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. A lot of you guys watch these videos, and you aren't subscribed. So make sure you guys help us out here. Help us reach 23,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for today's show. See y'all next time. Skol Vikes.